All right, Senator Ted Cruz joins us tonight with more on this. Sir, good to have you back on. I guess one major upside to this shutdown is that millions of Americans right now are seeing just the size and scale of the scam that is the SNAP program in this country. 17 million in 2000 were on this program, 43 million today. 1 in 8 Americans are on it. More than half of our immigrant population is on some form of welfare. The dole is now loaded with able-bodied people who are laying around collecting free goodies from this government, and I'm glad a lot of people are seeing it.
Well, unfortunately, that was a major agenda item for the Biden administration and for Democrats, is that they want as many people as possible dependent on the federal government, and they also, in particular, the open borders they had for 4 years. Over 12 million illegal aliens came into this country, and they allowed this country to be invaded. They released violent criminals and murderers and rapists and gang members, and every single day Americans were being killed, women were being raped, children were being assaulted by criminal illegal aliens that Joe Biden and the Democrats had released, and a very large percentage of those illegal immigrants ended up also on government welfare, and it was ultimately about power. They looked at every one of those illegals as a future Democrat, and so the massive expansion of these programs sadly was by design and was pursuant to their political agenda.
That's exactly why the borders were open, because you're going to bring in a lot of people that are going to need something from the government, and they'll always vote for more government, and that party is the Democrat Party. This was simply a power move. It's treasonous. It's one of the most horrible things you can possibly do to a country, but that shows you a lot about the Democrat Party and how much they really care about the health of the country. There's a lot of videos talking about how many recipients are just selling their EBT cards to pay for nails, to pay for hair, et cetera. There's a lot of these viral videos going around, and there's a lot of people calling it out, saying, I know people that are on this. They take the money from the government, they sell it so they can get all the other goodies. What amount of fraud do you think is in this program?
Yeah, look, I think there's very significant fraud, and every time Congress tries to address it, tries to put in checks to prevent fraud, to catch fraud, the Democrats fight tooth and nail. The only reasonable inference from that is the Democrats want fraud. They're perfectly happy. They'd be happy with 42 million becoming 60 million, become 80 million, becoming $100 million, or 100 million people. Why? Because it's, as you noted, everyone they can make dependent on the government. The Democrats believe those voters will vote for Democrats and more government forever. And everything for today's Democrats is secondary to staying in political power.
Real quick, do you think the government will reopen before SNAP runs out? Because right now, if you look at the way that Americans see this thing, Democrats can't let themselves be the reason that their welfare voters can't get their goodies this weekend. And right now, that's the way the American people see it. If Republican polling is going up, I feel like Democrats have got to capitulate before Saturday.
Yeah, I got to say, I'll be surprised if they do capitulate before Saturday. And we're so divided, we're so tribalized that each party is in their own echo chamber. And I think the Democrats are listening to their radical base. They're listening to their crazies that were out at the No Kings rallies. Yeah. And so I think at a very minimum, the Democrats are going to keep this shutdown going through Election Day next Tuesday. There's a gubernatorial election in Virginia, a gubernatorial election in New Jersey. And I think the Democrats at a minimum want to get through Election Day. We might see the shutdown end next week. They might keep it going on even longer because they're only listening to the radical base and not their own constituents who they're hurting with the shutdown.
Got 2 more questions for you. They got to be quick because I'm running out of time, but I want to get your answer on both of them. The Court of Appeals striking down this Illinois judge Sarah Ellis's order mandating that the Border Patrol, one of the top guys of the Border Patrol, Greg Bovino, appear in her court daily. They have finally struck down. This was the most egregious example of lawfare I have ever seen. Bovino had to go to her court every day simply because he tried to repel people throwing rocks at him.
Yeah, look. There are radical judges across this country, mostly put on the bench by either Joe Biden or Barack Obama, who are waging war on President Trump and the Trump agenda. And we've seen nationwide injunctions. Thankfully, the Supreme Court reined that in. And you see single judges trying to subvert the president's policies and the agenda that the American people voted for, and it's a complete abuse of power. And so I'm glad her decision got overturned.
I want to ask you about Arctic frost. We had an update today on this investigation, much more far-reaching than initially understood, as the DOJ was looking into senators, spying on senators. More than 160 Republicans and Trump-aligned figures were targeted in search of crimes wrapped around the election in January 6th. You were one of those. Chuck Grassley earlier. Take a listen.
I've recently been informed by Verizon that at least 11 members with Verizon accounts were affected. That includes a hard line for Senator Cruz's office and a staffer's cell phone for former Senator Loeffler.
So they tried to subpoena Verizon to tap the office phone in your office?
Well, to get the phone records, and they also subpoenaed AT&T to get my cell phone records. And I'll tell you, AT&T did the right thing. They refused to comply with the subpoena. Their legal counsel concluded that it was protected by the speech and debate clause of the Constitution. But you know, one of the things that is amazing, along with that subpoena they sent to AT&T, they also included an order from Judge Boasberg, who's one of these left-wing radical judges who's issuing nationwide injunctions. Judge Boasberg ordered AT&T, do not tell Cruz we are subpoenaing his cell phone records. Why? And he makes a conclusion. He says, because I conclude if he's informed, Cruz will destroy or tamper with evidence and intimidate witnesses. That is utterly without factual basis. It is a complete abuse of judicial power. And I've called on the House of Representatives to impeach Judge Boasberg. The Constitution, when Judge Boasberg decided to become a partisan warrior and be part of the most egregious abuse of power, this is Joe Biden's Watergate. And I believe the House should impeach Judge Boasberg, and I also think we are going to get to the bottom of every partisan who signed off on surveilling and spying on 20% of the Republicans in the Senate. That's what Joe Biden and their DOJ did.
It's wild, these judges. Senator Ted Cruz, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Rob.
You know, everybody's reporting the same stories, the same spin. You turn the channel, it's always the same. But not us. We're different. We report the real news. No spin, just the facts. Turn to us, and you won't turn back.
Tune in to Rob Schmidt tonight on Newsmax.